My sister became paralyzed in a fire while saving me, so I've been working over 20 hours a day to save money for her treatment. Until one day, just as I was about to collapse from exhaustion, a row of comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. What a gullible pawn. Does he even know the lead girl only risked her life to save him so he wouldn't find out the secret in the study? With a sucker like that around, it's no wonder she's addicted to faking her paralysis. Right now, she's probably out at a bar living it up with the kid next door. I rushed to the bar and caught my sister drinking from the same glass as Lin Yi. They were having the time of their lives. A group of people came out of the bar, chatting away so warmly. They didn't even notice me standing in the shadows. I heard a woman's laughter. How much longer do you plan on playing Jiang Che for a fool? I saw him handing out real estate flyers in the freezing cold last week. He almost fainted. Then came Jiang Mengqi's low, cold voice. When our parents died, it was all because of his impulsive, reckless behavior. Isn't it right that he should suffer a little and learn his lesson? The group sighed in mock admiration. I really respect you. Being that ruthless even to your own brother. I stood by the side of the road, a chill creeping up from the soles of my feet. The day our parents died, someone pointed the finger at me, saying I was the one who sent the text message telling them to drive to the riverbank. I cried as I tried to explain it to Jiang Mengqi. At the funeral, she hugged me, patted my back gently, and said, "It's okay. Your sister doesn't believe anyone else. I only believe you." But it turns out, she never believed me at all. All the 5 years I've spent struggling in the mud were nothing but her elaborate revenge. That's why, even when I was worked to the point of a heart attack and they issued a critical condition notice, she could still calmly tell me, "There's no money left in the house." I really can't do anything about it. The group walked right past me, gradually drifting away. I looked at Jiang Mengqi's back. This woman who has spent years in a wheelchair was standing tall and radiant. I barely recognized her. I finally opened my mouth, and when I spoke, my throat felt raw and bitter. "Having a good time, sister?" The woman, who had been chatting so coldly just a moment ago, stopped dead in her tracks. After a long while, she finally turned around, a flash of shock and panic crossing her eyes. Then, it quickly turned back to cold indifference. She hated me, so these 5 years of deception and mockery probably didn't cause her an ounce of guilt. I heard her voice, indifferent as if nothing had happened. Not bad. Those 2 words felt like a thin needle, stabbing right into my heart. Someone nearby tried to interject awkwardly. "Jiang Che, listen to us. Your sister is just..." Jiang Mengqi cut them off coldly. "You've already seen it, so what's there to explain?" As she spoke, she looked at me with a touch of mockery. "You've probably heard everything you needed to hear, haven't you?" Even knowing she wouldn't believe me, I forced myself to speak. "That text message our parents received that year. I really didn't send it." Disgust washed over Jiang Mengqi's eyes. "Jiang Che, you're 25 years old now. How much longer are you going to keep acting like a coward who refuses to own up to their mistakes?" There were so many things I was desperate to explain, so much unwillingness to just give in. Words of grievance were right on the tip of my tongue, but in the end, they were forced back down by the undisguised disgust and coldness in her eyes. After a long moment, I finally hung my head. "Understood. It's my fault. If this is the only answer that will satisfy her, then I'll just give her what she wants." Jiang Mengqi let out a soft laugh. "Yi is right. You need to suffer a little more before you'll ever learn to grow up." I looked up and my gaze locked directly with Lin Yi's. He wore a look of feigned innocence that couldn't quite mask his triumph. Back when our parents were still alive, our family had close ties with the Lin family, and Lin Yi was their only son. He used to shamelessly hang around behind Jiang Mengqi like a little tag-along. Back then, I would chase him away with annoyance, and Jiang Mengqi would never pay him any mind. In the blink of an eye, they'd become this close. I stood there for a long time, and by the time I snapped out of it, Jiang Mengqi's figure had already vanished. That was when I got a text from my senior sister. "Are you really sure you don't want the spot to study abroad? Director Chen was so disappointed when you dropped out in your junior year, so he specifically secured this extra spot for you. All expenses paid." I didn't hesitate any longer. I reached out and typed back my reply. "I've thought it over. I'm willing to go." Mid-air, the comments section started scrolling frantically. "That's great. Is the cannon fodder younger brother finally going abroad? Does that mean the female lead is soon going to adopt Lin Yi as her real brother? Why a brother? Wouldn't it be better to just watch the sweet romance arc? But isn't this a brother-sister trope story? Lin Yi and the female lead aren't even blood-related. Trust me, there will definitely be a romance arc between them later." The crazily scrolling text made me feel a bit dizzy, and my thoughts started to grow hazy. Fragments of the plot forced their way into my mind, and that was when I realized. The world I live in is a tragic unrequited love novel, and I am the female lead's cannon fodder younger brother. I'm destined to die or go missing before long. Heartbroken, the female lead will take the male lead, Lin Yi, as a substitute for her younger brother, and feelings will gradually grow between them. That's how they'll end up together, while every trace of my existence will be completely wiped away. No one will care anymore, so Leaving the country for good is the only way I can escape my fate. The 20-plus years Jiang Mengqi and I relied on each other were nothing more than a passing mention in the book. I wandered the streets aimlessly. The cold wind felt like it was cutting into my bones. Until my phone suddenly rang. I looked at the caller ID. It said, "Sister." For a second, I felt like I was seeing things. Jiang Mengqi's cold voice came through. "Come back to the old family estate." Now that her lie about the fake leg injury had been exposed, she didn't even bother to put on a show anymore. Her previous claim that the company had gone bankrupt and she'd sold the old estate to pay off debts was clearly a lie, too. I thought about how for these past 5 years, I'd been living in that old flat, which cost less than $500 a month in rent. It really was impressive that Jiang Mengqi could manage to stay there even once in a while. I think I'll just skip it, I rasped. All my stuff is still at that rented place. On the other end, they let out a cold, cryptic sneer. They hung up right in my face. My gut told me something was wrong, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I made my way back to my cramped little rental. I opened the door, and my bedroom was a complete wreck. The middle-aged landlord was tearing through my things. Hearing the noise, he spun around to face me, his eyes blazing with fury. "You actually dared to come back?" He lunged at me, grabbing my arm with a tight grip. "If you don't pay the rent in full today, don't even think about leaving. Your sister just came by, packed her bags, and flat out said she had no money. Now you're playing dumb too? I knew you two were planning to welsh on the rent all along." My head was pounding, feeling heavy and dull. Suddenly, I remembered that cold sneer Jiang Mengqi gave before hanging up. This was all part of her plan. After 5 years of faking it, she was probably dying to finally unleash all that hate on me. Through a wave of dizziness, I struggled to pull out the cash from my pocket, but before I could even open it, the landlord snatched it right out of my hand. Counting up the money I had left, less than $200. It was barely enough to cover half a month's rent. I practically had to lean against the wall to make it to the bedroom. I scrambled to gather up my clothes from the floor. My stomach was burning with hunger, but I just wanted to pack what I could and get out. I'd have to figure out the rest later. The landlord took the money. But he wasn't done yet. Never seen a sister and brother share a single room like this. "Your sister dresses like $1 million. Looks like she's doing just fine for herself. You owe me a cleaning fee on top of this." My head was buzzing, and my self-control was slipping. His words were just so grating. I angrily tried to force myself up, but before I could even stand straight, everything went black, and I crashed hard to the floor. In my fading consciousness, I heard a sharp, shattering sound. I couldn't tell where I'd hit my head, mixed in with a high-pitched ringing in my ears. The landlord panicked, barked, "Pack your junk and get out now," and scrambled out of the room. I passed out for a while. When I came to, it was deathly quiet all around. It looked like it was raining outside. I could hear droplets hitting the windowsill. I grabbed my bags and left the rental. Passing by the convenience store, I saw the owner walk out and dump a bag of bruised fruit and a few loaves of bread, probably expired, into the trash on the side of the road. I stared at it for a long time. When I realized what I was actually thinking, I suddenly felt like laughing, but the laugh never came. How did I end up in such a sorry state? I picked up a loaf of bread that was still sealed and squatted by the roadside, staring at it for ages. I couldn't decide whether to open it and eat. Luckily, it was late at night, and no one would notice. Otherwise, it would be pretty humiliating. My phone pinged. I tapped it open, and saw a record of a retracted message from Jiang Mengqi. As I stared at it, I don't know why, but my vision started to blur. In reality, she probably just sent the wrong thing. Or maybe it was just another insult or mocking message. But someone like me has always been good at lying to myself, thinking maybe, since it's already so late, she might be a little worried about me, too. I pat my pockets. I'm completely broke. In the end, I decided to call Jiang Mengqi. I called repeatedly, and finally, she picked up. The night breeze was biting. I stammered, Can you come pick me up? I don't have money for a cab, and honestly, I'm in no shape to walk all the way to the old house." There was a long silence on the other end, followed by a soft chuckle. Her voice carried a sense of victory and spiteful delight. "What's wrong? Don't you have legs of your own?" She didn't sound like she was even considering it. I couldn't say a word, just listening to the beep, beep of the line going dead. The truth is, during the 5 years Jiang Mengqi faked her leg tumor, she wasn't exactly kind to me, either. She'd knock over the soup I'd spent all night simmering after coming home exhausted from work, watching it spill all over the floor. Whenever I was so drained I begged her to drive me to the hospital, she would just smile and say those exact words to me. "What's wrong, Jiang Che? Don't you have legs of your own?" But back then, I believed her about her leg. I believed her about the depression. I told myself over and over again, she was only being mean to me because of the depression. Now, I finally understand. She just hates me. She's convinced that it was my text message that killed our parents. So, she doesn't want me to have a good life. I sat in the freezing wind, chewing on the rest of my bread. The street was deathly silent in the dead of night. It was clear Jiang Mengqi wasn't coming. I was truly out of options, so I steeled myself and called my senior, Zhou Wanqing. I felt terrible about it. It must be the middle of the night over there. But she answered right away. I didn't want to keep her up, so, even though it was hard to ask, I got straight to the point and asked if she could lend me some money. There was a long pause. My ears started to burn. It suddenly hit me that we'd barely stayed in touch in the years she'd been studying abroad. Asking for money so abruptly really wasn't appropriate. I rushed to cut myself off and end the call. Then, a voice came through from the other end. My mind was drifting, and I honestly couldn't tell anymore. Was it Zhou Wanqing speaking, or Jiang Mengqi? I gave her my address in a daze and hung up. The truth is, I knew no one was actually coming. Zhou Wanqing is all the way overseas. The only reason she asked for my address was probably just to pass it along to Jiang Mengqi. My vision was getting blurry. Those comments started popping up in my mind again, vying for attention. What a total pain. Trying to play the victim to drag the heroine away again. Thankfully, she isn't stupid. She knows today is Lin Yi's birthday and she has to be there for him. If she dares to ditch Lin Yi, we'll never forgive her when the chasing after the husband arc starts later. Oh, so it's Lin Yi's birthday today. Jiang Mengqi used to celebrate my birthday with me, back when our parents weren't interested in being there for us. She would order the fruitcake I loved and buy me the phone I'd been wanting. How many years has it been since she last celebrated with me? I tried to think, but I couldn't remember. As I sat by the roadside, just about to drift off, I faintly heard someone calling my name. Jiang Che? I struggled to lift my head. I saw a figure approaching me. I squinted, fighting to keep my eyes open, trying to see who it was. I heard the voice clearly. It was Zhou Wanqing. What's wrong with you? Where's Jiang Mengqi? I need to ask her. Why did she suddenly come back to the country? When did she get back? But the moment I opened my mouth, a wave of stomach acid surged up my throat, like my insides were churning and turning inside out. Before I could even make it to the trash can, I threw up. Right onto the sleeve of Zhou Wanqing, who was trying to steady me. My throat tasted like salt and blood. I managed to choke out an apology. I'm so sorry. My mind was a total blur, and I just kept repeating those 3 words. Zhou Wanqing frowned, and she seemed to be saying something to me. I couldn't really hear her. I just vaguely caught the word hospital. She must have been trying to take me there. With her help, I managed to stand up. I refused instinctively. No, I don't need to. I'm not going to the hospital. Jiang Mengqi faked a tumor in her leg for 5 years. And she treated it at that hospital for 5 years, too. During those 5 years, most of the money I killed myself earning went straight to the payment window of that private clinic. I have no idea what kind of deal that place had with Jiang Mengqi to actually help her keep up the act for 5 whole years. I never want to step foot there again. Zhou Wanqing guided me toward the car, saying, "Fine, then let's go to my place." But just a short distance ahead, a cold voice cut through the air. "Let go." I struggled to lift my head. In the dim light of the street, I stared for a good while before I could barely make out Jiang Mengqi's icy expression. Her skin was deathly pale. She must have come straight here without paying attention. There was even a smudge of cream on her left cheek. Lin Yi's birthday party. She must have walked out of there early. No wonder she looked so livid. I looked away and spoke softly to Zhou Wanqing. "Sorry to trouble you, senior." The car door opened, and just as I was about to get in, behind me, Jiang Mengqi, who usually never shows any emotion, lost her cool. "Jiang Che, stay right there." I ignored her and got straight into the car. Before I could shut the door, I heard her voice, thick with pure hatred. "You killed my parents, Jiang Che, and you and Zhou Wanqing are alone in the dead of night. Don't you ever have nightmares?" My hand gripping the doorframe went stiff. It felt like a needle, stabbing right into my heart. I don't know why she had to drag Zhou Wanqing into this. Maybe she really was so angry she lost her mind. Through the car window, I saw Jiang Mengqi's face, twisted with fury. The wind ruffled her bangs. And standing there all alone, she looked oddly lonely. My hands were shaking. I closed my eyes. Her face vanished instantly, leaving nothing but darkness in my vision. In that darkness, I seemed to see it again, from so many years ago. The Jiang Mengqi who used to laugh and walk home with me after school. As far back as I can remember, my memories of my parents have always been blurry. They didn't like me. They hated being around me. When I was 12, I happened to overhear our nanny talking. She said back when his mom was pregnant with him, she went to the hospital several times. She wanted to abort him, but the problem was she was anemic. It's really a miracle he survived. That day happened to be New Year's Eve. Mom and Dad were spending the holiday abroad, so besides the nanny, it was just me and Jiang Mengqi at home. I envied other kids who got to set off fireworks with their parents on New Year's Eve, so Jiang Mengqi bought some. He told me to go up to the rooftop terrace to set them off. As we passed the kitchen, we happened to hear the nanny on the phone, her voice dripping with mockery, using me as gossip fodder. The fireworks I was clutching spilled all over the floor in a mess. I gritted my teeth, but couldn't stop the tears. 15-year-old Jiang Mengqi stormed into the kitchen. her face dark with rage, snatched the nanny's phone, and smashed it hard against the ground. The screen shattered, and the nanny, furious, raised her hand to slap her. I instinctively threw myself in front of her to shield her, and a stinging, burning pain instantly spread across my face. By the time I came to my senses, the nanny was already screaming, clutching her arm. With blood seeping out between her fingers, Jiang Mengqi was standing right in front of her, kitchen knife in her hand trembling, her eyes bloodshot. I called out to her, voice shaking, several times, but she didn't move. As if she'd been frozen in place. The next day, Mom and Dad rushed back from abroad. They paid the nanny some money and dragged me and Jiang Mengqi to apologize. Jiang Mengqi shielded me behind her back, glaring coldly at that nanny. If you ever talk bad about Jiang Che again, watch out for your other arm. Dad was so furious he slapped her across the face. Mom stayed silent for a long while before speaking up. Send Jiang Che away, let someone else raise him. My mind went completely blank with terror. But ever since I was little, fear of my parents had been etched into my bones, and I didn't dare talk back. Jiang Mengqi grabbed my wrist, turning back, if you send him away, I'm leaving with him. Mom and Dad flew into a rage and left the country again that very night. We didn't dare hire anyone new, with no adults in the house. She started putting on an apron, frying eggs and toasting bread for me every morning. We would go to school together, and after class, she stopped hanging out to shop or go out. She learned to shop at the wet market, and every night, she cooked only the things I loved to eat. We sat across from each other by the window, and she raised her juice, gently clinking my glass, looking at my red, teary eyes. Under the lamplight, her gaze was filled with warmth. Big sis is here, what are you afraid of? It wasn't until that night many years later, when Mom and Dad, because of a text message, went out driving in a snowstorm to find me. Because the road was iced over, with zero visibility, they got into a car accident. Even now, I find it hard to recall the state they were in when they died. All I can remember is that, on a whim that day, I wanted to find a family photo. I went into the study and found a love letter written by Jiang Mengqi on the desk. I had stumbled upon her secret, and that night, Jiang Mengqi confessed everything to me. She had a boyfriend she'd been in love with for years, but our parents were against them being together. So, she planned to move abroad with him and never come back. At 23, it was perfectly normal for Jiang Mengqi to be dating. But I still tried to talk her out of it, saying moving abroad just wasn't the right move. And the never coming back part was even worse. I told her not to do anything in the heat of the moment. Usually, Jiang Mengqi was cool and collected, but that night, she was uncharacteristically worked up. She knocked over her teacup and lashed out at me, demanding to know. Why is it not okay? If I don't stay with the person I love, am I supposed to stay by your side and look after you forever, Jiang Che? Are you incapable of doing anything for yourself? Can you really not survive without me? Or tell me, what on earth is going on in that head of yours? I stared at her in total disbelief. I couldn't wrap my head around her saying something so cruel. I lost my temper and slapped her across the face. We had a massive blowout, and in the end, the books from the shelf, along with the cups and pen holders, were scattered all over the floor in a chaotic mess. It wasn't until a long while later that I slowly started to calm down. I said coldly, you need to see a psychiatrist. I'll tell Mom and Dad to take you to see one. Jiang Mengqi glared at me with bloodshot eyes, but she didn't say another word. When I left the study, I realized I'd left my phone at the office. I rushed to the office to get it, and just as I picked it up, I received a call. I learned that my parents had died, and on my phone, a text message sent to Mom had appeared 30 minutes earlier. Jiang Mengqi surely wouldn't forget that. That night, when I left the study, I had told her I was going to see Mom and Dad. And so, to this very day, that text wasn't sent by me, so for 5 years, she faked a tumor, faked depression, and faked bankruptcy, all just for the fun of watching me act like a clown, running around in circles, stuck in the mud and struggling to break free. As I pulled myself back to the present, Zhou Wanqing had already driven to her place and set aside a bedroom for me. I couldn't help but ask her if, before she came back to the country, she had seen that boyfriend of Jiang Mengqi's in Auckland. In these 5 years, I hadn't heard Jiang Mengqi mention that boy once. Maybe after our parents passed away, Jiang Mengqi had broken up with him. Back then, she was willing to move abroad forever for him. So she must have loved him deeply. Zhou Wanqing handed me a freshly brewed ginger tea. She looked stunned at the question. What boyfriend? It seemed her memory had gotten worse, so I explained. The boy Jiang Mengqi was dating 5 years ago, the one she'd been with for years. Don't you remember? Zhou Wanqing's expression became even stranger. After a long silence, she said gently, Jiang Che, you're exhausted. Get some rest. The way her face looked made me feel even more uneasy. Late at night, lying in bed, the room was pitch black and deathly quiet. Thinking about how Zhou Wanqing said we were leaving this weekend, I pulled up the app on my phone. I booked my flight, and then my WeChat chimed. Jiang Mengqi sent another message. Jiang Che, come home. I stared at the notification. Suddenly, a strange sentence popped into my head, in Jiang Mengqi's voice. Outside the orphanage gates, a 15-year-old Jiang Mengqi held my hand and said, "Jiang Che, I'm taking you home. I must be losing my mind. I was a Jiang child from the moment I was born." Zhou Wanqing was right. Maybe I'm just exhausted. It's time to rest. Jiang Mengqi started calling me again. She probably just can't stand that I'm finally acting out. I silenced my phone, tossed it on the nightstand, and closed my eyes. I drifted into a deep sleep, but the dream was a chaotic blur. I was back in that study from years ago. The love letter on the desk. It was filled with Jiang Mengqi's devotion to another boy, and her resolve to move abroad with him. Then, in an instant, the handwriting was swept away by the wind, transforming into a short, elegant line of script. "I hope 28-year-old Jiang Mengqi marries Jiang Che." I jolted awake, gasping. The night air outside was bone-chilling, and I was drenched in a cold sweat. The dream was so absurd, it took me a long time to shake it off. My sleep was completely gone. I just sat on the bed, forcing myself to endure until dawn. My phone displayed one final message from Jiang Mengqi. "Jiang Che, you'll regret this." I was confused at first, but then I quickly understood what she meant. By the time I went downstairs, I heard Zhou Wanqing on the phone, her face grim. "I've been a full-time employee for over a month. Firing me without cause is illegal. This is impossible. I never leaked any company secrets. Can sue you." Her voice was clearly distraught. She didn't even notice me walk up. I could faintly hear a cold voice on the other end. "We have solid evidence. We have no problem letting the lawyers handle this." Then, a man's sycophantic tone slipped through. "Miss Jiang, can we sign the contract now?" I thought back to Jiang Mengqi's last text and instantly realized what was going on. Zhou Wanqing rushed out in a hurry. She was probably heading to the company to argue her case. Maybe to find a lawyer. She had always been so composed. But right now, even her back looked defeated. She used to loathe the way her father did business, cut ties with the Zhou family, and clawed her way up on her own. She worked through college, then studied abroad. She spent years waiting tables and doing odd jobs. Everyone said she had real grit. But I know how much she suffered. Now that she's back from abroad, she's poured so much effort into this decent job. Later, I went to Jiang Mengqi's office, but the receptionist blocked me from seeing her. With a cold, detached tone, she said, "Jiang Mengqi gave specific instructions. He doesn't have a younger brother anymore, Mr. Jiang. And you don't seem to have any business to discuss." I was kicked out of the lobby. As I stood in the freezing wind for over an hour, a text from Jiang Mengqi arrived, like a scrap of charity. "Come on up." As I stepped into the elevator, the whistling of the wind still seemed to be ringing in my ears, and my head was pounding with a splitting headache. In the office, Jiang Mengqi kept her eyes lowered, signing documents with a slow, measured pace. She didn't want to look at me, and I wasn't in any position to rush her. My head was spinning, and my vision blurred as I stared at her hand moving rhythmically across the paper. I don't know how much time passed before her voice suddenly broke the silence. "How much longer do you plan on watching me?" I snapped back to reality. I realized that at some point, she had stopped signing. She looked at me with cold eyes. I still had enough self-awareness to know where I stood. I knew she despised me now, so I didn't bother with small talk. I got straight to the point. "Senior sister Zhou is an innocent outsider. Could you please, not make things difficult for her?" Jiang Mengqi tossed her pen onto the desk and let out a cold sneer. Her gaze, sharp as an invisible blade, cut through me. "Zhou Wanqing is innocent? Back when Mom and Dad passed away, how many of our family company's orders almost ended up in the hands of the Zhou family?" "Jiang Che, why are you still playing dumb?" Instinctively tried to explain. That was her father trying to take advantage of our misfortune. Zhou Wanqing had already cut ties with her family long ago. This isn't her fault. A hint of mockery rose in Jiang Mengqi's voice. "Do you really think I believe such nonsense? If she's innocent, then what about you? The one who sent that text to Mom and Dad on that snowy night? Are you innocent too?" I dug my fingernails deep into my palms. My emotions were on the verge of collapsing. I nearly screamed it out. How many more times do I have to say it? I didn't send that text. As the words left my lips, I didn't know how, but tears began to fall. I hurriedly raised my hand, wiping them away in a frantic, messy motion. In my peripheral vision, I seemed to catch a glimpse of Jiang Mengqi's mocking expression. Suddenly, I froze. When I looked at her again, she had turned her head toward the window, looking away, and I could only see half of her face. Unable to tell what she was feeling, I slowly calmed down. "Forget it. Believe what you want." I turned to walk out of the office, and behind me came the sound of Jiang Mengqi, sounding almost frantic with rage. "I really wish I hadn't stepped in when Mom and Dad wanted to send you away all those years ago." I abruptly halted my steps. So many years ago, on the night I felt most helpless, she was the only sister who stood firmly in front of me. Yet here we were, years later, and she finally regretted not abandoning me sooner. But that's fine. I'm leaving soon anyway. She'll get her wish soon enough. I didn't look back. I just said in a hoarse voice, "Then just pretend I was sent away. Let's never see each other again." Behind me, there was the sound of something shattering. I didn't stop. I left the building. As I stepped out of the elevator, a heavy rain began to pour. I didn't intend to ruin my health by standing in it. Even though the receptionist didn't look at me kindly, I lingered in the lobby entrance, planning to wait for the rain to let up. I hadn't been down long when Jiang Mengqi walked out of the elevator too. I wasn't arrogant enough to think she was coming for me. I figured she'd followed me down here, so I looked away, pretending I didn't see her. She held her phone to her ear. She was on a call. Not sure if she really didn't notice me, but she walked right over. She sat down on the sofa right next to me and stayed on that call for a long time. She wasn't leaving, and I started to feel like I was sitting on pins and needles. I kept glancing at the rain outside, but it only seemed to be coming down harder. She finally hung up, but she still didn't leave. If I calculate right, this should be the busiest time of day for the office. I felt like it was all a bit strange, so I couldn't help but steal a glance. I took a quick look, and our eyes met perfectly. She didn't even try to look away. Being this close, I could smell a strong scent of alcohol on her. I thought back to the office earlier, seeing that half-empty bottle of whiskey on her desk. Considering I hadn't been back in the country for many days, I still couldn't help but offer a word of caution. "You should drink less," I said. "Your heart was never that great to begin with." For once, Jiang Mengqi didn't snap back, though her expression was still cold. She just let out a dry, indifferent hum. The rain finally started to let up, though it didn't look like it would stop anytime soon. I stood up to head out, and Jiang Mengqi suddenly stood up too. She handed me an umbrella, one of those custom-made ones from the office. Every handle had a tiny Che character engraved on it. That was Jiang Mengqi's specific request. We used to be like siblings with a great relationship, so I took the umbrella and thanked her. I stepped hurriedly into the curtain of rain. It sounded like Jiang Mengqi said something behind me. With the rain drumming against the umbrella, I couldn't make it out. I went back to Zhou Wanqing's place, planning to apologize to her about the fact that she lost her job because of me. As soon as I walked in, I heard Zhou Wanqing say with a sigh that the boss claimed it was all a mistake. They'd rescinded the termination notice and fired the employee who'd framed me for leaking company secrets instead. As she spoke, her expression turned a bit suspicious. Was it really a mistake? On the phone, I think I even heard Jiang Mengqi's voice. "Did she give you any trouble?" I paused for a second. I still didn't mention that I had gone to see Jiang Mengqi, just shook my head and said, "No." For the next few days, I was busy getting ready to head abroad. I collected the wages from the few jobs I'd worked, and with the stipend from the school overseas, I paid back what I owed Zhou Wanqing and bought the rest of what I needed to take with me. My luggage was all packed, and the little loose ends were finally tied up. The day I left happened to be my birthday. I invited a few colleagues I used to work with, ones I was on decent terms with, to grab lunch together. As I left the restaurant, I saw red lanterns hanging in the plaza outside the mall. With the Lunar New Year approaching, the festive atmosphere was starting to fill the air. I suddenly remembered the countless New Year's Eves from years ago, when it was just Jiang Mengqi and me sitting across from each other. We'd clink glasses and wish each other a happy new year. Back then, I felt sad that my parents weren't there, and she would comfort me, saying, "Every New Year's Eve from now on, I'll be here with you." This year, never mind, the wind is just stinging my eyes. I raised my hand to rub my eyes, and suddenly, I saw Jiang Mengqi standing not far away. I thought it was just a trick of the light, but then she really started walking toward me. We've become such strangers now, even just standing this close. I started feeling awkward and uneasy. After a long moment, she was the one who spoke up. "The wind is strong." Her voice was so low I almost didn't catch it. She said, "Happy birthday." My eyes suddenly stung. Jiang Mengqi looked a bit uncomfortable and spoke again. "A client happened to send over a cake. It's mango flavored. You probably like it. I'll get it for you when we get home." Perhaps when people are about to part ways, they become more easily moved. For a split second, I couldn't help but almost cry. I'm leaving anyway. No matter how much history there is between us, maybe it's time to say goodbye. I got in the car and followed Jiang Mengqi back to the old house, secretly checking my flight time on my phone while sitting there. Truth is, I didn't have much time left. I thought if I couldn't make it in time, I'd just change to a later flight. When we arrived at the old house, Jiang Mengqi took the cake out of the box, and along with it, a piece of paper. A blue greeting card fell to the floor. I crouched down to pick it up. The first thing that caught my eye was, "Dear Mr. Lin Yi." It hit me like a physical blow. I suddenly thought, how could I have felt, even now, that Jiang Mengqi would actually spend my birthday with me? I pretended not to see the intentional mockery in Jiang Mengqi's gesture. I set the card aside. Jiang Mengqi took out the candles to put on the cake. Under the bright lights, I saw a smile in the eyes she turned toward me. She looked just like the Jiang Mengqi from years ago, who used to look at me with such gentle warmth. But I knew the Jiang Mengqi of today hasn't smiled at me like that in a long time. Just like now, all I could see in the smile within her eyes was hypocrisy and sarcasm. Before she could even put the candles on the cake, her phone rang. She answered it. I heard Lin Yi crying on the other end. "I don't know what happened. I sat down at the dining table, waiting quietly. After Jiang Mengqi said something in a low voice, Lin Yi asked anxiously on the other end. Sister Mengqi, are you really not coming? Jiang Mengqi lowered her head slightly, the light casting a shadow across her face. She was silent. After a long moment, she glanced at me. The card addressed to Lin Yi was still right by my hand. Honestly, there was no need for her to put on this act of hesitation. I spoke up, you should go ahead. Jiang Mengqi seemed to exhale in relief, and then she instructed me. Wait for me to come back before you make your wish. I nodded. She turned and hurried away. I sat there for a bit, then eventually stood up and walked out the entryway. Jiang Mengqi was rushing down the steps, heading toward the car parked in the front yard. I watched her back when my parents were still with us, whenever Jiang Mengqi had to leave for something. If I watched her go, she would always turn back to look at me. It felt like she had eyes in the back of her head, watching me, but this time. She opened the car door with a swift motion, got in, and drove away. She didn't look back, and she didn't stop. The comments started flooding the air again. What a deluded supporting character. Now you should finally give up, right? You took the cake that rightfully belonged to my Lin Yi. Go ahead and eat it all by yourself, then get lost as soon as you're done. Since they wanted me to leave, I closed my eyes. The comments finally faded away, and I went back inside. I looked at that mango cake and, in the end, left a line on the back of the greeting card. I'm leaving. I probably won't be coming back. I didn't touch the cake. Give it back to Lin Yi. This, I suppose, counts as a farewell. Just then, my phone rang. It was a call from Zhou Wanqing. Calculating the time, I realized I could still make it. It saved me the trouble of changing my flight, so I grabbed a taxi to the airport. The snow piled up along the streets of Heishi, and New Year's lanterns were gradually being hung up. Along with it, Jiang Mengqi's face slowly began to fade from my mind. At the airport waiting area, Zhou Wanqing and I grabbed a late-night snack, with my phone sitting on the table. I was lost in thought while eating until Zhou Wanqing asked me, "Are you waiting for a call? You'll need to swap your SIM card when you get there. If there's anyone you still need to call, do it soon." I snapped back to reality, shook my head and said, "Number." Zhou Wanqing looked suspicious, "But you've been staring at your phone so many times." I felt a bit embarrassed and hurriedly shoved the phone into my pocket. Zhou Wanqing hesitated, but finally spoke up. "About going abroad, did you say goodbye to Jiang Mengqi?" I thought of the words I'd written on the back of that card. "I did." Zhou Wanqing instinctively followed up, and she didn't. She stopped midway, leaving the sentence unfinished. After a long silence, she let out a soft sigh and said, "Forget it." I said softly, "It's fine." She wouldn't be worried, just as Jiang Mengqi had said. I truly wish she hadn't tried to stop my parents from sending me away back then. Now that I'm leaving, she would probably just clap and cheer. Zhou Wanqing looked at me in silence. She had that strange look in her eyes again. She probably felt sorry for me. When going through security, just as I was about to hand my phone to the agent, Jiang Mengqi called. The security officer gave me an inquiring look. I hesitated for a moment, but pressed answer. I stepped aside, not continuing through security. On the other end was Jiang Mengqi, for the first time in years. Her tone was unexpectedly decent, even carrying a hint of guilt. I know her too well. I didn't even need to hear the rest. I already knew what she was going to say. The airport was a bit noisy, and her voice sounded a bit blurry. "Little Yi is having some trouble here. Just stay at the old house for now. Tomorrow, I'll buy another cake and make it up to you for your birthday." She knew perfectly well that a birthday is a birthday. A day late just isn't the same. Back when our parents didn't want to return home and said the same thing, Jiang Mengqi would sneer and say, "What a hypocritical act." And now, she started using that same excuse herself. Since I was leaving anyway, I didn't want to make things difficult for her. In the end, I just said, "It's fine." Luckily, I knew she wouldn't go back, so I didn't wait for her there. After hanging up, I didn't hesitate anymore. I turned off my phone, went through security, and boarded the plane. Plane climbed to 10,000 meters, and Heishi gradually vanished beneath the clouds. "Well then, sister, this is it." On the other side, after the call ended, Jiang Mengqi felt her heart skip a beat for some reason. She suddenly felt uneasy, as if something that had always been within reach had suddenly been snatched away. On the hospital bed, Lin Yi, his face pale, called out to her softly several times, "Sister Mengqi?" She didn't hear him. Her gaze remained fixed, staring unblinkingly at the phone screen as it slowly went black, until Lin Yi reached out and tapped her arm. Then, with deep concern, he started, "I've been thinking about that letter paper again lately. Sister Mengqi, since you've kept that letter all this time, are you really not planning to talk to Jiang Che again? Do you want me to help you talk to him?" Jiang Mengqi snapped back to reality, instinctively blurting out, "No." Lin Yi looked at her, puzzled. His expression full of confusion, he asked, "Why?" "Jiang Che was only sponsored by the Jiang family. He saw you as his own sister. And it was just a problem with his memory." Jiang Mengqi knew that, of course. I wasn't his real brother. I was just an orphan the Jiang family took in. If I were, she wouldn't have developed those strange feelings for me. But some things just couldn't be said again. She didn't dare to bring them up either. She couldn't forget the words I said 5 years ago when I slapped her across the face. If there's a next time, Jiang Mengqi, we will never have to see each other again. Her thoughts were forcibly pulled back. Jiang Mengqi repeated the word hoarsely, number. No. Lin Yi said, oh, then clutched his head and started sobbing again. My headaches have been getting worse lately. The doctor says my migraines are getting more severe. As he spoke, he crawled off the bed and threw himself into Jiang Mengqi's arms, crying. Sister Mengqi, am I going to die? The scent of men's cologne on him wasn't overpowering, but Jiang Mengqi couldn't ignore it. It hit her nostrils, and honestly, the smell made Jiang Mengqi feel sick to her stomach. She struggled to resist the urge to push him away, comforting him by saying he wouldn't. But her mind had already drifted far away. He was clearly lying on a hospital bed, complaining about how much pain he was in, yet he hadn't forgotten to put on cologne. It wasn't the first time Jiang Mengqi couldn't help but wonder, is Lin Yi's illness really flaring up that often? He keeps pulling her away from me, time and time again. Was it really just a coincidence? He kept bringing up that letter over and over again, and saying he wanted to tell Jiang Che. Was that really not a deliberate threat? Thinking of me, Jiang Mengqi couldn't help but recall my final words. It's okay. An inexplicable sense of panic and unease came rushing over her. What exactly was she so anxious about? Why did she get the feeling that my overly calm words implied something else? Something she couldn't accept? Was I really still just staying at the old house? After finally managing to placate Lin Yi and finding an excuse to leave, Jiang Mengqi didn't hesitate for a second, driving back to the old house in the dead of night. She pushed the door open, but my figure was nowhere to be seen. Her heart sank to the bottom. The room was warm, yet Jiang Mengqi felt a chill run through her entire body. The mango cake was still sitting undisturbed on the dining table. Jiang Mengqi tried to reassure herself. Maybe I had just gone upstairs to rest. Maybe I just couldn't wait and left. She had said she would make up my birthday celebration tomorrow. I hadn't refused, so no matter what, I would be coming back tomorrow, right? Next to the cake, there seemed to be a card. What was that? Jiang Mengqi didn't remember seeing it before. She walked toward the dining table, a distance of only a few steps. Yet it suddenly felt exhausting. She gradually made out the handwriting on the card. It was my handwriting, the one she was most familiar with. I'm leaving. I probably won't be coming back. I didn't touch the cake. Give it back to Lin Yi. What did that mean? It was like an unexpected bucket of ice-cold water being poured over her head. What did it mean to give the cake back to Lin Yi? What did it mean that I wouldn't be coming back? Her body swayed, and she almost collapsed. Extreme panic and confusion, mixed with fury, made Jiang Mengqi grab the card. When she saw the words on the front of the card, to my dear Mr. Lin Yi. She had ordered this cake specifically for me. Was that cake shop crazy? So, when I saw this card and didn't tell her, what was I thinking? Was I thinking she had purposely lured me over, using a cake that didn't belong to me? Just to humiliate and play with me? But that wasn't it. It wasn't like that at all. The sudden surge of fear and unease, mixed with near-violent rage, made her hands tremble uncontrollably as she called the cake shop. On the other end, the shop manager's voice sounded helpless. Ms. Jiang, Mr. Lin Yi came by this afternoon. He said this cake was ordered by you for him, and asked us to add his name to it. Since you've ordered cakes for him several times before, we didn't call to confirm with you. A vein pulsed on Mengqi's temple, and her head was buzzing uncontrollably. For the past 5 years, every time she wanted to find me or spend time with me, it was always Lin Yi, tearful and looking innocent, calling her away with a single phone call. At this moment, Jiang Mengqi could no longer hold it in. She called him with a dark expression. The mask of gentleness she had worn for 5 years vanished completely. She was practically screaming as she interrogated him. Lin Yi, is this fun? Do you think this is interesting? Lin Yi's sobbing started up again on the other end. I just happened to be passing by. I thought you were the one who ordered it for me. Jiang Mengqi sneered repeatedly. Resentment slowly shattered her composure. I told you this morning that I was spending the evening with Jiang Che, Lin Yi. Your hypocrisy and pretense. It's absolutely sickening. There was a long silence on the other end, followed by a tearful, incredulous gasp. I'm sorry. I'll go apologize to Jiang Che. I'll tell him everything written on that letter, too. Jiang Mengqi's eyes were cold and bloodshot. She finally lost the last shred of her sanity. Then go ahead. Lin Yi, don't bother threatening me anymore. I want to marry Jiang Che. Go ahead and tell him. On the other end of the phone came Lin Yi's panicked, shocked voice. Jiang Mengqi. You. Jiang Mengqi curled the corner of her lips. She spoke, word by word. Go on, say it. Go tell him, if he can even reach me anymore, that is. Finally, there was no sound from the other end, though the call timer kept ticking. Holding the phone, Jiang Mengqi stumbled upstairs. She searched every bedroom, then the terrace, the study. She wanted to find me, but I was nowhere to be found. She took out her phone and sent me a text. Where did you go? But everything vanished into the void, like a stone dropped into the sea. Jiang Mengqi looked everywhere before entering the study again. The window was left open, and the midnight breeze blew in silently. It blew the letter off the desk, the handwriting left by 18-year-old Jiang Mengqi. It was already starting to turn yellow. Jiang Mengqi suddenly remembered the first time we met. That year, Jiang Mengqi was 15. Her parents took her to an orphanage to visit the children. A visit that lasted less than a day. Yet it was followed by countless camera lenses. The Jiang parents even hosted 2 live streams. It was all just to get their family business listed on the stock market. In the end, they only donated 5,000 yuan to the orphanage. Jiang Mengqi found it laughable. Yet, right as the visit was ending, her parents wanted to put on a show for the cameras and casually beckoned a young boy passing by. They claimed they would sponsor his education. Just empty words in front of the media. They had no interest in such things at all. Jiang Mengqi found it ridiculous. For some reason, she walked straight up to the boy and asked, "What's your name?" The boy looked at her timidly. After a long pause, he whispered, "Su Che." Ignoring the panicked, warning glares from her parents, Jiang Mengqi reached out and grabbed the boy's wrist. She said, "My parents are going to sponsor you. You're an orphan. From now on, you'll take the Jiang family name. Jiang Che, I'm taking you home." 12-year-old me followed her back to the Jiang house just like that. How foolish I was. I actually believed the Jiang parents were sincere in sponsoring me, and I thought Jiang Mengqi bringing me home was an act of genuine kindness. So I stuttered, pouring out my gratitude to the impatient Jiang parents. And later on, when the Jiang parents were away from home, a business partner of the Jiangs, a fat, vulgar man, broke into the house in the dead of night. Back inside Jiang Mengqi's bedroom, just as she pulled out the weapon from under her pillow and was about to strike at the man, another blade had already appeared behind him, plunging straight into his heart. Thunder cracked outside the window, and in the fleeting flash of lightning, Jiang Mengqi saw my face, drained of all color, terrified. Jiang Mengqi didn't know how to describe it. At that moment, it felt like a heavy blow. A violent, brutal punch landing right in the center of her heart. At 15, Jiang Mengqi tasted the feeling of being protected for the first time. It felt almost ridiculous. Yet this feeling came from a 12-year-old child. Even in the dim light, Jiang Mengqi could see my body trembling violently, but the object clutched in my hands kept desperately driving into the man's heart. Even in agony, the man turned around in a blind rage and grabbed my throat. Such a thin, fragile neck. It felt as though just the slightest bit of pressure would snap it. Jiang Mengqi shivered all over, gripped a fruit knife, and lunged forward. That night, someone died in the bedroom, and someone else took up residence in 15-year-old Jiang Mengqi's heart. I was still so naive. Even in the throes of agonizing injury, I contacted Yang's parents, never knowing that while I was in the emergency room, they had rushed back and each gave Jiang Mengqi a vicious slap across the face. Yang's father's voice sounded like he wanted to kill her. "Do you have any idea? Zhao Dai is dead. Do you know how massive a contract I've lost because of this?" It wasn't just me who lacked a parent's love. That's why, years later, when I was 20, Jiang Mengqi intentionally let me into the study to see the letter she had written when she was 15. She thought, we are both people suffering from the same illness, people who have depended on each other for years. It is only natural that we should be together forever. But what she got in return was a slap from me, shocked and furious, followed by my near hysterical questioning. "Jiang Mengqi, have you lost your mind? Your parents would never want to see you do something like this." Jiang Mengqi's face turned to the side, and she let out a mocking laugh. "If they don't want to see it, then they can just die. Once they're dead, they won't have to see anything anymore. It was her life, her choice. Why should she care whether those 2 people liked it or not?" I was furious, yet I couldn't do anything about her. I knocked over the teacup, then the books from the shelf and the pen holder on the desk. Eventually, everything was smashed onto the floor. Amidst the mess covering the floor, Jiang Mengqi looked at me calmly. And once I finally stopped, she made up her mind and spoke. "Why do you care about them? We could move abroad and settle down, never to return. Jiang Che, I can make money now. I can provide you with a good life. You don't need to rely on their disgusting financial support anymore." After I finished smashing things, my mood gradually cooled, and I said coldly, "You need to see a psychiatrist. I'll talk to your parents and have them take you to see one. If I hear anything like that again, we are never seeing each other again." Jiang Mengqi only heard my final words, "Never see each other again." Suddenly, she was struck by terror. She rushed out after me, her voice trembling. We tried to talk it over, but I walked out of the study and left the house. I never looked back, not once, on that night when the blizzard was raging. Jiang Mengqi's parents received a text message I supposedly sent, asking to meet them at a cafe. It said Chen Dai would be there too. Chen Dai, the CEO of the company her parents were dying to partner with. So, they braved the heavy snow and rushed over in the middle of the night, but because visibility was so poor, their car's brakes failed in the blizzard, leading to a horrific crash. Later, at the funeral, I wept as I explained to Jiang Mengqi that I hadn't been the one to send that text. Told her I'd left my phone at the office that night, and by the time I got it back, the accident had already happened. Jiang Mengqi didn't even hesitate. She said she believed me. She believed everything I told her. Besides, she didn't really care that those two were dead. Those so-called parents of hers who had tried to send her to a business partner's room. She had wished them dead a long time ago. But after the funeral was over, Jiang Mengqi was worried about me late at night and went to pick me up. Only to accidentally overhear my conversation with Zhou Wanqing.